1. Who is it that wrongs you this time, Sappho? 0. So soft, Sappho heard hard words, many syllabled, po. Today in English, she is all soft sibilants and faded Fs, but in fact she is for Sappho. In ancient Greek and indeed in modern Greek, if you hear a native speaker say her name, she comes across spitting and popping hard Ps. Po. We have eased off her name, made her docile and sliding where she's really difficult, diffuse, many syllabled, many-minded, vigorous and hard. That's from Margaret Reynolds, the Sappho Companion. 6. So 16. This is a poem that I made with Simon Smith, so we both were translating Sappho simultaneously, somehow, and we put our 16s together. So this is sort of meant to have a male voice and a female voice, and when me and Simon do it together, that's more obvious, but I would do it on my own, but I internalise male voices, so I can do it. 16, Sappho 16. Some men say, so the saying goes, an army on horse, patrols of light cavalry, an army on foot, a square of infantry, an army of ships, a fleet of battle cruisers, the finest view on this dull earth, the beautiful thing. I say, it is the object of your desire, your love, I say. Consider. The proof is straightforward. In plain view, it was she, Helen, who conquered all in looks, cast away the best husband in the world, left husband, parents, children, set sail for Troy for the children or parents, not a thought, some men say, without a thought, in the frame of my memory, Anactoria, gone. There's something in the way she moves, the way light travels across her face. Her walk, her face outshines more lovely than Lydian chariots, the sparkling breastplate of the bloody infantry. She walks out on the fucking industry. (105) for Page Dubois. The poem is the absence of an apple, Anactoria. After 31, looking at him, listening to you, a God feeling he can come close to you. I seeing you only in refracting mirror fragments. 31, for Josephine Balmer. I am greener than grass. Green is fear, not envy, is paler than grasses close to a feminine ending. Endured. 0, for Cat Crossley. Some men say she fell to pieces on the rocks. She says, it's not possible. 31. This is a fragment, they're all fragments, but this is called Fragment. This is for Tim Atkins, who gave me the procedure, and Jan Montefiore, who is my next door neighbour, excellent feminist scholar also, and lent me a book through which I got the material to put Tim's procedure on. If I meet you suddenly, I can't speak. My voice deserts me, silently speaking me no longer is possible. Tongue cleaves. Lost. My voice is speechless, failed, faltering, a slip in my tongue, at the tip of my tongue is broken, it trips, tied, a loosening, I can't lose, winded, speech sticks, tongue in my mouth. Nothing comes to me to say, tongue, it's not possible. Tongue struck. This one's called Sappho in Early Modern England, and it's for Harriet Andreas, who wrote a book called Sappho in Early Modern England. Sometimes she touches silence, speaks herself in silence. There are erotic spaces, there are gaps in the histories. We all wanted voices. Call her exotic fricatrice. The word on the street is rubster. They're just some early modern terms for women who have sex with women. 102. Sweet mother, I'd leave my loom for this one. Slender my reed voice. 102. When once I wove crowns, mother, I cannot weave my web. Aphrodite, she breaks me for a boy. 165. We sing to ourselves in two minds. This one's called Long Ago. It's for Michael Field, who were a Victorian lesbian couple who translated Sappho. And they've used quotations from their journals and letters. I'm not actually really a fan of the poems, but I really like the journals and the letters and the idea. But they had this idea of what Michael Field was that I'm kind of getting to grips with, which is not only the sort of pen name that they wrote under, but also kind of the name of their relationship as a kind of like third or a one encompassing two, which is the thing I'm kind of interested in. One of the things I'm interested in about them. The Violets have put aside their loving, sly little scholars, tiny marsh violets. Composition in field voices passes the impediments, the shards, the gaps, I mean, the marriage of true minds. A veritable Michael, love flown to every flower. I cannot see you apart from me now. This alteration of my hand, let me not, forget me not. Okay, done with Sappho. So what I've been doing most lately, so this is my most recent poem, I think. I started translating Rilke, and then I got really interested in Orpheus and Eurydice. So the eventual, this didn't work as well as I thought it would. Never mind. It's got a quotation from Carly Simon's autobiography, which is going to be the beginning of the pamphlet when the pamphlet exists, but at the moment it's about 2 poems. And the quotation is, I didn't know whether I wanted to speak Orpheus or Eurydice or Al Johnson. And I thought that was a really great thing to say. So I'm now saying it to you. So this is a translation of Rilke's Orpheus, Eurydice, Hermes. Although I called it Orpheus, Hermes, Eurydice. That was the soul's underground. How silent silver they went, veins through darkness. Between roots sprang blood to the world, looked stone heavy in darkness. Nothing else was red. Rocks were there, insubstantial forests, bridge over emptiness, and that great grey blind pond hung over its distant floor, like rain sky over landscape. And between meadows, soft and patient, one path, one pale strip appearing, laid long. This path, they came. In front, the slender man in blue, the mute, impatient, looked on. His step devoured the path, hung his hands heavy out of the falling of folds, and knew no more of the delicate lyre grown into his side, rose graft on olive. His senses were as divided. His sight ran ahead of him like a dog, turned, again went far and stood waiting at the next turn. His hearing trailed like scent. Sometimes it seemed to him as if it reached as far as the going of those other two, who should follow the long path. But then again was just his own steps echo, the wind in his coat. But, he said, they are coming. Say it aloud and hear it fade away. They are coming. Those two others, the terribly quiet walk. Could he turn again? The returning gaze would be the breakdown of this whole work. It has to be finished first, move on, or he would have to see the two that followed, silent. The God of speed and distant messages, journeyhood over bright eyes, slender staff held out before the body, his wings at his ankles, and at his left hand, she. So loved that she caused more music than he thought a woman capable of making, that a world was in grief, as in everything was itself again as grief, forest and valley and road and village, field and river and animals. For this world, just as around the other earth, a sun and a starry sky, silent went, silent his suit with sky-defigured stars. So loved. But she walked beside the hand of God, her step narrowing from wearing her grave, still trailing round her, uncertain, gentle, without impatience. She was in herself, as his hope was, and did not think of the man who went ahead, or the path to life. She was in herself. Being dead filled her as fullness does. As a fruit is ripe with death, new beyond understanding. He said she was in a new virginity, untouchable. Her sex turned inward, nightfall like a flower. She closed to him, and her hands were of marriage, so unweaned that the God's touch hurt her like too much intimacy. She was no longer a thing he might have seen as a woman. No longer her song self, no longer the wide bed scent, an island no man no longer owned her. She was already loosed like long hair, poured out like rain, limitless supply. She was already root. And suddenly the God stopped her and with pain said words, he has turned. She felt nothing and said softly, who? But far off, dark against her bright leaving, was someone or other whose face could not be recognised, who stood and saw how on the strip of meadow path, with mournful look, the God of messages silently turned to follow the shape already turned on this same path. The step constrained from wearing that trailing grave, uncertain, gentle, without impatience. Do I have time for one more thing?
I've been looking, I don't know what time you started.
And it might be great.
I think we're all right. I think we're all right for time.
Okay, cool. Okay. In that case, I'm going to read something that I feel really uncomfortable about. Because I think I should read it. So, essentially the idea behind this work that I've started, but again I haven't finished, I do a lot of that, is I was trying to, well, my friend was trying to write a sex blog for a webcam to try and get more customers. And we started working together on what was meant to be that. It was actually ended up us talking about like what it sort of means to us, what we thought writing that actually was, and how that kind of connected to sex that wasn't work and work that wasn't sex, yeah. I wanted to register an uncomfortableness because I kind of thought maybe I wouldn't do it because I'm like embarrassed or...
Go for it.
Oh no, I'm totally going to do it, but I wanted to talk about being embarrassed.
Oh, sorry.
Because that's one of the things about, if we're talking about women and voice, right, one of the things about trying to speak in a voice is like being embarrassed about that voice a lot. And I was trying to work out why I was embarrassed, apart from, like, I wanted to, like, I said I want to sort of give them a reading that they want to hear. And I was like, how do I know what they want to hear? And like, why am I always trying to tell people what they want to hear? Which I do all the time. And I thought that was gendered too. So anyway, this is the first section of that. He kept telling me he wasn't good at sex. I kept enjoying sleeping with him. I wondered if he said this because he was ambivalent about sleeping with me, wanted to give me a way out that made me feel empowered. I said this to my analyst. She said, it seems to me he is interested in your pleasure. This is the point where the animal sound says, exactly. When the analyst says exactly, it is the end of the session. Leconte used to say exactly in the middle of a sentence. She said, I could never do that exactly. He did it so well. He told me he had started to think that he enjoyed tying me up because he was working through his issues around finding me unruly in a safe space. She said, you have to work out why you let this man do this to you. That seemed to suggest that this was an escapable structure. It seemed to me we were microscoping the structure. He says this is my blindness, that I see everything through me. He has a file on his desktops on the symptoms of narcissism. I understood that my actions, symptoms were being monitored. He diagnosed my sister with borderline personality disorder. My sister does not have borderline personality disorder, though it is my word against his, and sometimes he says I am almost inaudible. My sister told him this was not his house, that he could not run it as he wished. I was so silent I couldn't hear her. He said he is a wonderful man who has blind spots. I said, yes, I know, I live in his blind spot. He keeps driving into me. Keep driving into me. We could use that. Should we say, keep driving your cock into me? Keep driving your hard cock into me? Your long, hard cock, your long, hard, thick cock, your hard, long, thick cock, your long, thick, hard cock. No, that's too much. What's the point where they know we don't mean it? And would they care? Maybe we shouldn't talk about size anyway. It might be that they don't want to know about long, thick cocks. They might want to know about their long, thick cock. So your long, hard, thick cock, but not his long, hard, thick cock. It's possible they don't want any of this. This is contextual. When we actually met, he said he wanted to talk to me about how he missed being a fireman. I said, why? He said it had made him feel needed. He was worried he was old. He was worried he had a small cock. I used to pick the older ones because I thought they would be kinder. We are now presented with penis size as a problem that had not previously occurred to us. So it's back to the drawing board. I have an abnormally long vagina. I wrapped my abnormally long vagina around his rock hard cock. I don't think that's a thing you can do. What can you do? You can sort of clench it. I received his cock into my abnormally long vagina. It was like an email or a love letter. It was like a dick pic in 3D. And there's more to that, but it's not.
So we'll take a break of 15 minutes.